Hey, there's Mordred.
There's Mordred in the game for the first time.
Yeah. First we'll do a run cycle showcase.
True.
Yep. Actually, that's not the command anymore.
No, it's supersonic.
Yeah, but then I'm super fast. We're gonna.
Yeah, then it's not as cool.
You'll have to walk slow.
You can turn it off now in Smite 2.
Oh yeah, I can turn it off.
All the new tools we get to play with.
yeah,
I don't
I
even
know,
know
right?
all of them yet. It's
Pon's still limited by his Smite 1 memory of having to cheat in the game during the patch show.
The sky is no longer the limit. There's space and stars out there.
all right, go.
All right, let's just do like a
show
kit
off those
showcase.
abilities.
And I'll get enough energy.
Yeah, I was just like, you may need to. That might be bugged a little
Yeah,
bit.
so-
Oh, come to the switch class.
Yes, because of switch class. But then we got this,
Yeah.
Okay.
and then
Do you want to
I
use
will.
The, yeah, you got it. You got it.
You know the secret techniques.
So now we got the ultimate, because again,
ultimate
this is like
Ultimate.
it's like some other character.
That's
We'll
so
go over all
cool.
these abilities in a second.
Oh man, his animations are insane. What?
Yeah.
All right, so that was a lot of stuff. So I guess first and foremost, while we continue to look at the kit a little bit, why Mordred? What brought Mordred as the next god into Smite 2?
So we talked about it a little bit in the early videos. I'll echo some of those sentiments, but there was a lot of community requests for this character.
Yeah.
A lot of rogue polls on social media that we don't always go off those, but specifically for this god, we did want to look for a character like that. So we saw he was topping a lot of those polls, more than we honestly thought. Huh. So we started to consider him a little more seriously, and then we also were looking for someone to kind of contrast Hecate as one of the first gods. So we were looking for someone a little bit more just evil and angry and mean, and we were also looking for someone melee and physical. And so Mordred started to stack up in a lot of ways that worked out like that. And then as we started brainstorming the kit and the planning, we really felt like he had some really cool opportunities for abilities that really showcased Smite 2 and felt like stuff that we normally wouldn't do. So all those things came together to just got Mordred officially on the calendar.
Nice. So, I mean, yeah, we've seen all of his kit now. We've seen it in action, but let's talk about what we're seeing. So first up, I know that his basic attacks, because of his 2 swords, are a little special. What's going on there?
Yeah, so one really last caveat on that point is Mordred, there's going to be some expectations when you have Mordred, right? He is the antagonist to the story. He's the rival to King Arthur, and we really wanted to make sure that, one, we found a unique playstyle for him and what he's going to be in Smite 2, but 2, we had homages to the Arthurian lore. We had homage to King Arthur as well. We thought that would be really key to who Mordred would be in Smite 2. Of course. So going back into the kit, like you were saying, so yeah, in Smite 2, and for Mordred, new to Smite 2, just like it's weird to finally see him out there.
Right.
We didn't want to just go with like traditional Excalibur's contrast, right? We split that in 2. Mordred is going to be wielding 2 longer than normal, hefty swords. One in the right hand that we've dubbed Morning, and left hand is actually the canonical Clarence. So that one's actually in one of the stories was a gift from Guinevere.
Okay.
So for Mordred, he's going to be playing around. He's got a lot of different themes going on, but one of them is the split between strength and intelligence, something that we haven't talked about a lot today, but we want to play with in Smite 2. We want to play with specifically with Mordred. He's got a 4-hit basic attack chain, and he attacks and he swings not quite alternating, but between the 2 swords. Morning, his right-hand sword, Clarent, and then Morning. That's actually going to be pretty important for his playstyle. One, because he's got a chain swing time of 0.75, and 1. So he's actually has faster swings on Clarent. But 2, is because the different swords have different scaling. Morning has the traditional strength heavy scaling of 100% strength and 20% int. But Clarent actually has a pretty heavy reverse where it does 100% int scaling and 60% strength. So that's 40% less strength than normal, but 80% more intelligence. So you really can play an in-hand intelligence Mordred kind of emphasized build. And that's
really cool.
just kind of one component. So long story short, for Mordred, he is kind of a hybrid frontliner. We're expected to see playstyles of both strength or int, but more likely hybrid itemization.
Yeah. Which is awesome because, again, you get to utilize that whole item pool and just figure out where your best build is and where your comfort zone is. So let's keep moving down the list. Let's move on to the passives.
Yeah.
What passive are we
So
looking at?
Mordred's passive is kind of split into two parts. One is just really describing his energy and resource-based mechanism, and this is the biggest mirror to King Arthur.
All right.
He builds his own energy. So Wrath of the Forsaken, the name of his passive, he gains his own energy resource called Wrath. You can see that in the passive meter, and based on that, just like King Arthur, he gains 2 different ultimates based on 40 and 80 Wrath. So at 40 Wrath, he'll gain access to his first ultimate, and at 80 Wrath, he'll gain access to his second, and it'll drain that amount of Wrath respectively. He gains Wrath just by attacking enemies, both minions or enemy gods with base attacks and abilities.
Okay, cool.
I actually haven't had a turn off character test sheet.
Oh, no, you're just going to go negative if you want.
Oh, it's just go negative?
Yeah, so same command, but instead of 100, do like minus whatever you want to do.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Cool.
So that's the description of the resource and kind of how you gain access to the ulti. The actual passive is what Pon's doing over here. It's called Shoulder Charge. It's something that we wanted to play around with. You know, we played it with Hecate. We talked about that interact feature, and we wanted to do that but different and for Mordred. So Mordred, if you use an ability, any sort of attack or a basic attack, you actually have a small window where you can use that interact button to shoulder charge and quick hit an enemy. So with his base kit, you have your first, second, third, fourth, fifth abilities and your shoulder charge. I mean, that's the way we got to do it. Right?
And I'm cheating with cooldowns. He doesn't do this that often.
Yes, your shoulder charge passive
it has
active
a
ability,
traditional ability
has a
cooldown.
normal ability cooldown that does scale per level.
But
You
so
hit that jump button at the
Yeah.
right time, and you'll do this shoulder charge instead.
that is
Exactly.
Man, y'all just can't stop being creative with ways to use this feature. All right.
It does go through enemy minions, stopping on the first enemy god, knocking them up. So you can't knock up multiple enemy gods, but it's really good. It's short range, but
Yeah.
you know we're really expecting to see you weaving this in combat.
Oh, for sure.
It's
I
not
can
really
see this
gain for,
part of lane dueling too, especially if you're
Exactly.
playing out the solo lane. You just cut right through the minion wave to start your engage, catch them off guard because they didn't think you were about to dash through. Really cool stuff. So I guess let's move on to his first ability, Cruel Strikes.
Yep, Cruel Strike's his first ability. A lot more simple, but it's got some fun nuance. I feel like I say that every time when I'm describing gods. So it's got some nuances going on. So the first thing he does is he swipes in a cone, and then he attacks down in a line. So that's doing damage on both strikes. Now, for fun little nuances is that there's a bonus effect on that line strike.
Okay.
So if you do this normally, you can see right there, it's kind of that more darker red tinge, and you'll be doing bonus damage. Bonus damage actually scaling off of your protections. Playing around with that, like we said kind of earlier with the different gods. Now, the other thing is, like I said, we do expect you to be thinking about your base attacks a little bit more. So if your next attack in your chain is going to be off of Clarent instead of Morning, because you default off of Morning, then you can see the icon actually change on the bottom, and the next time you fire Cruel Strikes, you'll do a more orange tinge. The damage on the strikes themselves is the same, but the bonus effect is different. So the bonus effect is self-healing.
Oh, that's awesome.
Scaling off of protections.
So cool too that you have kind of built a weapon selection system into that ability by just layering it in with your very, very nice.
So by default, if you are in-hand canceling, or if you just use this ability by normally, you'll be doing that bonus attack damage. You attack one time with your base attacks, or twice technically, you'll gain that healing. Or if you're in the middle of an attack chain because you're going attack speed, crazy build, you're gonna have to rely a little bit more on your visual sound cues and as well as the ability changing color there.
Or complete guesswork.
Or complete guess, yeah. You know what? It's a bonus effect. It'll be good for you.
Yeah, it'll be fine. You're hitting them either way.
But both those mechanics, the passive charge and the AO1, have very like high skill ceiling in-hand cancel type implications for really doing that very specific timings of the right order, getting the proper effect you need for the proper situation, or to interrupt your opponent, really like making him a god who can really outplay people in the solo lane.
Yeah.
It's a big goal.
Well, and I love too that like so far everything I've seen is approachable. This isn't. I don't feel like I have to be a super high skill level character to pick up this or to
Right.
Yeah, to pick up this character. But when you start to learn how to play Mordred, there are all these things that you can refine, and the skill ceiling is just so
I think the
high.
goal definitely there is approachable with a high skill ceiling.
Yeah.
That being said, AJ kind of touched upon it. You know, he was kind of designed to be a more a frontliner. We expected to see him kind of in the solo lane, but I think he absolutely has a kit. And if you want to go aggressive, it wouldn't be far-fetched at all to see him kind of in
Playing him
the
in the
solo.
jungle.
Or even I've seen him Mordred supports too, surprisingly enough, because he's got some utility. But speaking about that aggressive nature, let's go on to his second ability, Blood Rage.
Yeah, I was getting ready for it.
I saw you throwing them, like, you know what, we'll self-throw. Okay, second ability, Blood Rage, yeah. I wanted something
You have to say it
angsty
like, you have to
there.
say it like that.
Blood Rage. So Mordred's second ability, he kind of exclaims and yells in anger around him, dealing damage to enemies around him. Simple as that, dealing a hybrid of strength and intelligence, because we didn't talk about that, but the second ability does a hybrid of strength and intelligence. The first ability is actually just pure strength scaling.
Okay.
Then he actually, so he does the AoE damage around him. He also gets a buff of attack speed and movement speed.
All right.
That being said, while he has this buff active, every basic attack he does in an enemy will actually, and I think this got corrected at some point, so it might be wrong on the patch notes, but you actually reduce the enemy's protections, both physical and magical, and gain that stacking protections yourself. So you gain physical and magical protections whenever you hit enemies with your base attack while the 2 buff is active, and drain it from the enemies.
Brought steel on
Yes.
during the duration.
Exactly.
And can I see one more Blood Rage real quick? Because I like
Blood Rage.
on the ground too. There's like an inscription that it leaves on the ground. That is so
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Effects are
Yeah, it like
crazy,
fades
making
out.
this look really awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, all right, I love that. So let's keep going then. We have ability
Yeah.
3. We have Severing Slice up next.
Ability 3 is Severing Slice. A little bit more simple, I think, hopefully. It's a it's a projectile, but it's kind of like, it's got a smaller, thinner kind of sweet spot in it. So a little bit different than the normal rectangle
yeah.
projectiles you might see. And again, the effects here, kicking ass. So hitting the projectiles, it just does damage in a slow.
Yeah.
That being said, if you get hit by the center, I don't know how we would show this off, actually. You actually...
Bots orbit.
I tried bots orbit. They don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They're scared of Mordred.
Okay,
That's
okay,
so true.
okay.
So if you hit an enemy with the center, an enemy god specifically, you will bleed them. Bleeding them will actually make them take more damage over time as they move.
Got it.
So the more they move,
classic
the
bleed
more, if they
mechanic.
leap, if they do anything with a movement based on it, they will actually suffer increased damage for every like X amount of units that they move.
Yeah, got it. You
So
can see
you-
the effect. Yeah.
Yeah, you get this bleed on you. It's not the longest duration, but be careful. Tread
When
lightly.
you hit somebody you're chasing, or like I said, if you're bullying somebody in lane and they're trying to back off and you hit them with that as they're running back to tower,
Yep.
their options are stand still and you chase them down, or run away and take more damage, and all right, now I have to back anyway.
Yep. On non-god enemies like just lane minions or jungle buffs, they will just take normal dot damage instead.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then talking about the scaling again, the projectile itself does base and scales off of intelligence, while the bleed or the dot scales off of strength.
Rock and roll. Yeah, the scalings are really cool. The build diversity for him is going to be insane. But now we've made it to numero 4. We have the ultimate here. We have Heart Slice. So let's get into
Yeah,
both of
Heart
those.
Slash.
Well, there were 2 of them. It's Slice, Heart Slash.
But believe me, trying to find adjectives like slice and all these different.
You can't use any that's been
Herbs.
used on a god
Yeah,
ability
exactly.
before, or item.
Yeah, that has been impressive.
So, I mean, this combination wasn't there as well. But Heart Slash.
Heart Slash.
So Heart Slash, accessible at 40 Wrath. You'll deal damage to enemies in front of you in a line. If you hit an enemy god, any enemy god, including multiples, they're rooted and crippled, and you start channeling for a short period of time. During that time, they take constant damage, and you gain healing. And also, if you hit an enemy god, you also get a shield effect for that duration.
That's cool.
So this is a really good way of locking people down. Again, a slight homage to King Arthur's AF4. Honestly, both the ultimate abilities are homages to King Arthur's as well. So he's kind of got the CC effect, but he's really pulling their life force during this time.
Yeah. Again, it's that dark version, you know.
You got to put yourself at risk a little bit, but to lock down someone a little longer.
Yeah.
Yep. You can cancel this ability early, or if the enemy god themselves is CC immunity or breaks out of that route, they'll end this ability early too.
That's so great.
Oh, and you can hit AoE too.
Yeah, we changed that. We
Yeah.
were like, we gotta
This was
amp
only
this up.
single
This-
target for a while.
Surprise.
The Ares combo.
This was only a single hit on the first enemy god, and then you were like, you know what? We need to amp this
I
up.
see.
A little bit.
Get the Ares.
Good thing I was so busy on those items.
Yeah, get the Ares pull, get the Zeus ult, and get that, and that's a team wipe. All right.
Yep. And then finally,
Ult
I'm not
part
joking
2.
this time. Alt part 2, as we saw a little bit earlier. So yeah, this is Pursue the Weak. At 80 Wrath, Mordred gains access to this ability, and he can just go through the world. He's a hunter, and he's chasing down his prey. He can dash for, I think, about 5 seconds through all wall collision. And we did a lot of new tech. So there are some things to be seen there, and we talked about in the deep dive video, and I want to clarify here. We did change things within the last few weeks to kind of help performance actually with Mordred and with this ultimate ability. So the calling tech is not as perfect as we want it to be. Usually you can see in the post-process area in the center, you would call away all rocks, all materials, and you can see it happening in some places. In some places it's not as perfect as we want it to be. So that's something we are going to be sharpening up. So
Yeah,
I
we
really
recently
wanted-
had to basically redo.
You can see the floor there. That you shouldn't be able
all
to
the
see
stuff that we did for making sure Conquest worked really well. There are some things that like
had some knock-on effects.
knock-on effects on him. We will be cleaning that
You
stuff.
ever been so angry you couldn't see the floor? That's crazy.
Yeah, that's honestly, that's exactly what's happening. So you go through enemy minions, you stop on the first.
You can hit
enemy
the
god.
jungle camps.
Yep,
too.
you can.
Just dash right through 'em.
You stop on the first enemy god hits, and in that area around him,
At a range.
yep, you'll hit all enemy gods, launch them up into the air, do heavy strikes, and then knock them back down.